It's the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We have reached the Labor Day weekend. It's going to start off here in the metropolitan area with some rain, but hey, it's still Labor Day weekend. Enjoy as we say goodbye to summer and look forward to a football season that will begin. Well, it's already began in college. Will begin in a couple of days on Thursday, as we will lift the curtain on this NFL season with primetime games on Thursday and again on Friday, as the NFL tries to see if it can, squeeze some more money out of another country as they bounce games all over the place, which, to me is always a farce. But hey, the NFL is always looking for another way to put some money in the coffers. We know that. Now, baseball. Mets bounced back with a big win yesterday. Needed that game after a crushing defeat. And, with the Mets, there's going to be days where their bullpen's not going to get the job done. That's all there is to it. And those games are going to hurt. They bounced back yesterday, got a win. Braves lost, so they're 3 behind. 3 is critical. They have to, as we enter September, they have to keep the wild card number at 3 or below as we head towards the September 24th dates. And those dates in New York are going to be enormous. September 24, 25, 26. I've talked about them before. Orioles, Yankees, 3 games. Mets, Braves, 3 games. Everything could go down to those 3 days. The season ends a couple days later. It ends the following Sunday. So there's one more series to play after this series. September 24, Tuesday. September 25, Wednesday. September 26, Thursday. Orioles, Yankees at the stadium. Mets and Braves in Atlanta. And everything could be on the line in those 2 games. The Mets have 28 games left. They're in Chicago this weekend to play the White Sox. And they know the Cubbies are trying to crawl up their back a little bit. They're 2 behind them right now and playing better. But you go into Chicago, and the Yankees couldn't do it. You go in there, and you try and sweep a series. This team has lost 7 in a row. They've lost 9 of 10. They've lost 104 games already. They have a very good chance to be the worst team in baseball history. But they can win a game. I mean, they won 1 game against the Yankees and almost won another one. So they're capable of winning a game against the Mets, and that would hurt. Mets need to get in, get the games, put them in their pocket, and get out and get home to play the Red Sox on Labor Day. Mets will follow up the Red Sox with the Reds and then go to Toronto and Philly. They're going to see the Phillies a couple of times before they play the Braves. So White Sox and then the Red Sox on Labor Day night. Both the Yankees and the Mets at least are playing on Labor Day. I hate if they're off. I get mad. You know that. My annual crusade about playing doubleheaders on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. They'll never do it, but it's a good idea. But at least they're both playing. Mets are home to the Red Sox, who are not playing well. The Yankees are in Texas starting on Monday. So the Mets will come home and play Red Sox and Reds. Then they'll go to Toronto and Philly after that. 28 games left. The Mets have played better on the road by a couple of games. They're 35-31 on the road. They're 35-33 at home. With them, it comes down to whether or not their bullpen can do the job. They're going to be in a bunch of close games. They can come from behind in games. They have offense. They can get leads. The question is, can they hold leads? And yesterday they had a good win, a bounce-back win. And that's the one thing you'd say about this team is every time they have a crushing loss, they seem to bounce back. And they've done that. But they can't get worse than 3 behind. And chasing the Braves is not easy because the Braves are playing well. As a matter of fact, the Braves are starting to scare the Phillies. They really are. So those Philly games become important, too, because, you never know. Before you might wake up one morning and the Braves are past the Phillies because of the way they're playing right now. So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't think they can catch either San Diego. Forget the Arizona, but I don't think they can catch San Diego either. I think that San Diego's bullpen is too good. So I think they'll win enough games. But right now, it's the Braves, 3 behind. Cubs are 2 behind them. So you got to pay attention to that's the team of the moment. They seem to go back and forth, but right now that's the team. You want to see who's going to get hot in September. Like The Tigers have started to play better, as an example, in the American League. The Cubbies are playing better. So you got to watch what teams are starting to fade, what teams are starting to come together and are going to make a decent September run. Just, play better baseball in September. But again, it could very well come down to these 3 epic days. And ironically, they're both going to play the other team at that time, Yankees and Orioles. The Orioles have played miserably for a while, and that's the only thing that saved the Yankees. The Yankees are a game and a half up on the Orioles. They're 2 in the loss, 78-56, 77-58, because the Orioles have been terrible. They just got beat up by the Dodgers. They haven't played good baseball in a while. But neither have the Yankees. I mean, let's be honest. The Yankees in the last 75 games were 1 game over 500. It's not enough. It's not been, and nothing is consistent except Soto and Judge. That is ultra consistent. Been amazing, to be honest with you, but nothing else is consistent. Not the lineup, not the pitching, nothing. I mean, the pitching can be very erratic. We know the bullpen can be erratic. The rest of the lineup can be ultra erratic. And then you have Soto and Judge, day in, day out, as it has been all year. And that's the one constant for a team that's hanging on, because, let's be honest, the Orioles it's been a while. As badly as the Yankees have played, the Orioles have played just as bad. They have not shown that they are going to right the ship at any point. And you're still staring at those 3 games in about a little more than 3 weeks. September 24th. Orioles, who have played well against the Yankees this year, will invade Yankee Stadium for 3 big games, while the Mets will be in Atlanta for the same 3 dates. All night games. Then the Yankees will host the Pirates to close the season, while the Orioles are playing the Twins. Twins' fate will probably be decided by then. And the Mets will close the season in Milwaukee, which is not great for this reason. Milwaukee's going to have long clinched their division, but they're going to be in a fight for the record. You don't want to be the 3rd record of the 3 divisions, because that means you play. So right now, 2 games separate the 3 teams that lead the National League. 54, 55, 56 losses. If it stays that close, you're going to get a motivated Brewer team that weekend. And that's a problem, because they're a good team. So you can't go there figuring, Milwaukee's going to be sitting back playing kids because they're getting ready for the postseason. It could be that by then, but probably not. Probably this is going to be a fight for best record, because it's that close between among the 3 teams. Among the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers, 54, 55, 56. 2 games separates the 3 teams. And that makes a very big difference. So the Mets in Chicago to play the woeful White Sox. The Yankees home against the Redbirds. And it's a funny thing. It doesn't matter if the Reds... It doesn't matter if the Cardinals are a mediocre team. This is just something, and if you've been a baseball fan long enough, you understand this. There are now insignificant games against the Cardinals. You just see the Cardinal uniform, and you sit up in your chair because it's the Cardinals. And you have respect for the Cardinals. You have respect for who they are, who they've been. Great baseball organization, great heritage, the whole thing. And, there's certain teams. Dodgers are usually good, but even when they're not, they're still Dodgers. The Cardinals, you see that uniform, And, to me, it's shades of 64. Watching the World Series as a kid against that 7-game World Series, which to me was the World Series that I think had the biggest impact on me of all the World Series. It was a 64 series. It's just the age I was. Mantle was still playing and still a big factor. He had a very good World Series. He had 3 homers, 8 RBIs, hit .333, had big home runs. Had a walk-off home run against Barney Schultz in Game 3. Hit a home run in Game 6, so did Maris and Pepitone in a Yankee rout. And then hit the 3-run homer to bring the Yankees close in Game 7 against Gibson. Left center field bomb off Gibson that McCarver said, I just could not believe he took that pitch out of the park to left center field. So, Mantle was struggling physically even then. Maris was in center. Mantle played right because he had a problem with his shoulder. He had made a bad play in the outfield in game 3, which was what he was angry with as he came to the plate. He never made any statements about what he was going to do at the plate. Ellie said that he never, would say something about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He wasn't a bragger kind of guy. And he was mad because he had made a bad throw. And he turned to Ellie and he said, you can go in. And Ellie said, I don't remember any time that he ever did that. He said, this game's over. And first pitch, Barney Schultz, knuckleballer. And, the Cardinals starter had pitched a brilliant game. It was 1-1. And he said he was relieved by Schultz in the 9th. And he said as he walked down walking down the corridor that went from the dugout to the locker room in the old stadium. And he said he was just in the corridor and he heard this incredible roar and he said, oh, I know what that means. Mantle hit a homer. Because he knew Mantle was leading off the bottom of the 9th. And he said, I knew it. I didn't even have to go check. I didn't have to go look. I didn't have to do anything. I just heard the roar and I knew what it was. And he hit the first pitch for that walk-off home. Remember, Crissetti pounded him on the back as he comes around third base. A walk-off World Series homer. And I remember, it's funny, certain series as a kid, I can remember almost every play of that World Series. I was glued to that World Series. And for some reason, the ebb and flow of that series, Gibson's performances, and that was the first coming out of Gibson, who was utterly brilliant in his World Series career. If you look at the numbers, they're staggering. He pitched complete games in every game. I think in the games that he started, I think he was 7-2 lifetime, and he threw every inning of every game. I mean, just incredible stuff. The Yankees, who still had a lot of pop in 64. You had Maris still there. He had not had a good year in 64. Remember, he had really good years in 61, 62. 60, 61, 62. Maris hit 40 homers. Then he hit 39 homers. Then he hit 61 homers. Then he hit 33 homers. And then after that, he really didn't hit a lot of homers. But in those 3 years, he hit, a lot of home runs. And you had Pepitone. You still had, Richardson. You had Elston Howard. So Clete Boyer. So it was, it was still the Yankees. And they had a tough pennant race that year. But I remember it well. So that Cardinal uniform always takes me back. It always does. Even when they're a mediocre team, which they are right now, a 500 team, not a team of any significance right now, but still they're the Cardinals. So when the Cardinals play the Yankees, it's just something special about it. because two of the really great franchises. I mean, the Cardinals have always been about winning. They've always been about organization. When you come up as a Cardinal, you hear Hernandez talk about it a lot, what it meant to come up through the Cardinal organization. The only organization you would think that had a stronger impact on a player would have been not the Yankees, the Dodgers. Because the Dodgers had their Dodger way of doing things. Even the Yankees didn't do things the way the Dodgers did or the Cardinals did. The Cardinals and Dodgers, throughout their entire organization, did things a certain way. That was the Cardinal way of doing things. And that's why it's just a special franchise. And I just always get the feeling that whenever you see the Cardinal uniform, it's a big game. So the Cardinals are at the stadium this evening for a weekend set before the Yankees go to Texas on Labor Day. Try to hold the Orioles off. That's basically it. Try and keep their distance. We know the Yankees and the Orioles are both going to the playoffs. The question is which one's going to win the division. And we've been talking about that now for months. And they haven't been able to shake them. They haven't been able to shake them because they haven't been good enough. And the Orioles haven't moved in front because they haven't been good enough. We are a couple days away from the NFL season. Can't wait. And we will do a live program. We will do a live podcast on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube on Wednesday morning. And we'll clue you in on what our schedule is going to be for the opening week and what our schedule is going to be for most of the season. So we'll do all that on Wednesday morning when we see you live on Wednesday morning after this Labor Day weekend. So that'll be the next podcast, and we'll give you the schedule and tell you what's going on and what we're going to do for this football season and everything else. We'll have over-unders, we'll have everything. So join us Wednesday morning, and we'll get you up to date on everything that's going on for the football season on Wednesday. We should be able to give you a good schedule. Obviously, we're going to have always a Football Friday program for you up live on Friday morning. That's going to be given. And we will be there after the games live on with audio and video this year. So we'll be up on the channel too. So after the game. So that will be something new. I was driving yesterday to go play golf, and I heard Douglas's sound bites talking about Reddick, and he just sounded so completely lost. It was almost like you were waiting for him to say, hey, guys, you know what? I just screwed it up, and I'm trying to find a way out. Instead of, he's praising his agent and praising Reddick when really he wants to strangle both of them now. I mean, this has completely imploded on him. The Eagles, who are a smart, cagey organization, knew exactly what they were doing. They were going to unload a player who they knew as he approached 30 that they didn't want to pay him a ton of money, and that he was going to demand a ton of money, which is why they unloaded a player who was as productive as he was. Hey, when something looks like that, there's a reason why it's happening. Nobody's going to give you Haason Reddick. And they will tell you, or they'll try to tell you, the Jets hierarchy, that he said this and he promised this. Nonsense. You had to deal with this long before now. Now you're playing a game of chicken that's based on the results of the regular season, and you don't want that. See, Reddick's sitting there saying, listen, what I'm going to do this year, if the Jets don't watch it, is I'm just going to do enough to make sure I get myself to free agency. All right? You don't want that. You don't want him in and out of this lineup. You don't want him playing this game. Now, right now, he's thinking, all right, they go into Monday night against San Francisco, and they don't touch the quarterback. They're going to come running with a new deal. They're going to panic. They're not going to want to get off to a bad start. Now, the one thing that went and backfired on Reddick is the fact that it looks like Williams isn't going to play. And if you know anything about the Niners, when Williams doesn't play, they're not the same offense. Not even close. You can talk about anybody in that lineup, including McCaffrey. When Williams is out of that lineup, that team loses its identity offensively. All that power, all that productivity, everything they bring, their runs after catch, their play action stuff, everything they do in that offense. And they signed Ayuk, as you know, yesterday. Everything centers around the fact that they need Williams in the lineup. And it looks like he's not going to play. So, if San Francisco is not operating like they're supposed to operate, Jets might get more pressure than originally anticipated, and that could prolong this situation with Reddick, because if the Jets are productive in their pass rush, they're going to say, see, because they're trying to go on this premise they don't need him. Nonsense. How can you go on the premise you don't need a pass rusher like Haason Reddick? That's nonsense. Why'd you bring him here if you don't need him? You traded for a player you don't need? That's what you're going. That is your story, and you're sticking to it. I traded for a player I don't need. I don't really need him. I traded for him. I don't really need him. I gave up a very productive player for him, but I don't really need him. I brought him here. Forget what he's done in the league the last 4 years. I don't really need him. We all know that's garbage. You need him. You want him in the lineup. You've envisioned him being there all year. He is a standout performer. We all know that. And you also knew what he was going to do, because why did you think he was available? What do you think? The Eagles just got up one day and said, you know what? We've had enough of this guy. Yeah, he's been great, but you know what? Hey, goodbye. They didn't want to deal with what the Jets are dealing with right now. But the Jets can act like they didn't expect to deal with this. Nonsense. This was a given that this was going to happen. That's why he was available in the first place. And Douglas can sit there and tell you all this nonsense, and it's complete nonsense that he's spewing, because he doesn't know what else to do. This thing has been royally screwed up, and this team didn't need this distraction. This team has a chance. It really does. And I'm not jumping on the Jet bandwagon now. Okay. But let's be honest. The Jet roster is loaded. Yes. They have to keep an old quarterback upright and healthy. Is he a great player? Yes. Does he still have it? I think he does. Is he brittle? Oh, yeah. Is he susceptible to injury? Oh, yeah. You have a left tackle who's a Hall of Fame player who last year graded out as the best pass-blocking player in the league and played 900 snaps last year. But he is and I screamed to bring him here. But I have to admit, he's injury prone. He's not young, and he's injury prone, which is why he was available. Because the Cowboys were like, we think we've gone down this road enough times that we're going to... And they admit that watching him leave was very difficult. Why? Because they've had two great players anchor that line through these years, which is why they've had the offense they've had, because they've had a great left tackle and a great right guard. And it has anchored their offensive line. This guy will anchor this line. He will lead this line. He will offer this team incredible protection. He has to stay healthy. They have to keep their quarterback and their left tackle healthy. But if they do, they have a chance to be not good. They have a chance to be super. Yes, the Jets. I don't know if there's a better top-to-bottom roster in the NFL. This team has everything. Does it have a big-time receiver? Check. Does it have a big-time running back? Check. Does it have a big-time defensive back? Check. Does it have big-time pass rushers? Check. Check. Have big-time linebacker? Check. Check. Got a kicker? Yeah. Got a punter? Yeah. Head coach, you got me. No check. Checkmate, I hope not. Two things. Well, let me go to three. Things scare you about this Jet team. Number one is the obvious injury situation to two aging, brilliant performers in their quarterback and their left tackle. Hall of Fame credentials. We know that. For the quarterback, I mean, he's doing the right thing. He's butting up against immortality. I mean, he has that kind of ability. The left tackle's a Hall of Famer. Their injury situation scares you. They both are injury prone, and they're not young. And age hurts in the NFL. It just always does. Number two is the coaching. The head coach has not proven for one iota that he understands what it means to be a head coach. Does he understand how to run a defense? Yes. He proved that before he came here. Does he understand what it means to be a head coach? Not a lick from what we've seen so far. Not a lick from what his practices have showed you, what his game time decisions have showed you, what his record shows you, is that he might just be really bad at the job. We're going to find out now. But you have a guy who can supersede the coach because he can basically run the team, and that is the quarterback. The third thing is that it's the Jets. So we know that they are highly capable of being in that class that I only use for very special teams, the ones that can screw up a one-car funeral. They're one of those. Matter of fact, they get to help carry the banner. And this Reddick thing is a perfect example. This was not necessary. You knew what you were getting into. Why did you allow this to happen this year? Not this year. There are times to take a stand. This is not that time. And that worries you. Because if you don't think that can fester into something that can really start to break at the core of this team, then you haven't watched enough football. Because it can. Little things matter when you want to be really good. This isn't about being a playoff team. This isn't about being a team that's playing meaningful games in December. This is about a team thinking about being able to play for a championship. And then if you're going to be in that world, little things matter. Everything matters. Because it's the little things that will destroy you. You have to have someone who handles and pays attention to details. Because when you ignore them, that's when you get beat. But as far as the roster that has been built, the team that is there, I'm not sure there's a roster in the league that I could put above it. Now that the offensive line can play the way that it can, with the depth that it's added, with the versatility that it's added, and with what they added, especially with a player of that magnitude at left tackle, the offensive line now joins the rest of the team at a level that is accepted. See, the offensive line was lagging well behind. And the quarterback was lagging so far behind. See, you have to understand, a lot of people think, like, how can you have the Jets go from here all the way to there? Well, because you have made the changes that needed to be made on the offensive line, and the step you are about to take at quarterback, the most vital position in all of sports, the step you're about to be taking is as big a change at the position, as big an upgrade as any team has ever experienced in the history of the NFL. You are going from awful to all world. That changes everything. But the head coach has to be smarter, and the general manager has to be smarter. And they have to get up to a caliber of performance that at least resembles what the roster. They aren't anywhere near the level of the players. The players are at a very high level on this team. The hierarchy of this team could be as bad as it gets. And that's scary. Next time we talk, it'll be football season. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.